Greetings, fanboys and fangirls. I'm Erod and I'm the Blockbuster Buster. Now, for those of you who may not know, I actually did produce an honest review of Kingsman to the Golden Circle. Unfortunately, YouTube blocked it. Now, for those of you who are wondering what that feels like, imagine that you showed up to work for a full week. Monday through Friday, you showed up, you came in, you clocked in, spent 8 hours working, doing your job, doing your absolute best, not being able to spend time with your family, have fun, do anything that you wanted to do, doing what you're supposed to be doing from 9 to 5, and then at the end of the week, you find out that all the work that you did got thrown in the garbage. That's what that felt like. So, to remedy this, as most of you still want to know what I think of this movie, I figured I'd throw together this video without any of the footage from the actual movie, because 20th Century Fox are assholes and they don't appreciate free promotion. Because the fact of the matter is that me talking about these movies actually promotes them. It doesn't matter whether I say positive or negative things. The fact that I'm getting the word out about this movie could potentially interest people in seeing them. I can't tell you how many times I get emails from you guys talking about videos that I made where I talked about a movie and how bad that movie was, and you guys watched it anyway just to see how terrible the movie truly was. So, in my opinion, not only am I protected by the Constitution for fair use, because it's both, my videos are both reviews and parodies, but in my opinion, Fox blocking videos with their content without figuring out what type of video it is a terrible, terrible move. But it's obvious that this company, the studio, has made a lot of terrible moves as they have gone out of business, and Disney has bought them. So there, I spoke my piece. I got that off my chest. Now let's talk about the movie. So this movie has a pretty equal amount of haters and fans. So what I'm going to do, to be fair, I am going to talk about all the things that I didn't like about it, but I'm going to juxtapose it with all the things that I liked about it. Now, just at the top of this video, right out of the gate, to save you guys time, if all you want to know is whether I liked or hated this movie, I'll go ahead and answer that for you right now. I liked this movie. Yes, I can see that it's not perfect. Yes, I understand that it's nowhere close to being as good as the original, but as a movie fan, as a critic, as a fan of the Kingsman franchise, I enjoyed it. So there you go. If that's all you wanted to know, there you go. You can stop the video here. Now, if you want to know why I liked it, then feel free to stick around while I elaborate on the matter. As per usual, there will be spoilers ahead. You've been warned. I'm going to talk about this movie without any restraint. Alright, so if you haven't seen Kingsman to the Golden Circle, stop the video here. You were warned. There you go. So, the first thing that I thought was better about the original that this movie didn't have is that the original juxtaposed reality with fantasy. Like, Eggsy's life was filled with lots of harsh reality. His mom is a bit of a deadbeat who doesn't really take care of him. She shares an apartment with this horrible man who is not married to her and who abuses her, and also has no shame about attacking, hitting Eggsy, or having his gang. He has a gang that attacks Eggsy. Eggsy, you know, has a record. He ends up in jail at the beginning of the movie, and the original juxtaposes that harsh reality with this amazing, fantastic spy life that he has. That was brilliant, because it gave you a balance, and it made the movie more relatable. It gave you an in. It gave you a platform for you to be able to sympathize and relate to Eggsy. The second movie didn't have that at all. It was all fantasy from start to finish, and it just wasn't relatable in any way. It was just, if the original movie is like a full course meal, the second movie was just dessert, dessert, dessert. Just lots and lots of dessert, big pieces of cake with lots of frosting, and just very little substance. Just lots of delicious dessert, and after a while, even the most delicious dessert, it's too much. It's too sweet. It leaves a bad taste in your mouth. You want to drink some water, and that's what this movie was like. It's just lots and lots and lots of dessert. Alright, let's talk about the cast. Now, most of you are probably expecting me to say lots of mean things about Halle Berry and Channing Tatum, because as most of you know, I have no love lust for those two. They are very much my least liked actors. However, I have nothing negative to say about the two because they were barely in the movie, so there you go. Interestingly enough, in this comedy movie, the person that I thought was the funniest was Elton John. I could stand here and tell you all about all the funny, crazy shit that he does in the movie, but it's one of those things you have to check out for yourself. The bad guys were just okay. They weren't bad, they were just okay. They were Charlie Hesketh, played by Edward Holcroft, sorry, I had to read it, and Poppy Adams, played by Julianne Moore. And Julianne Moore, one of the greatest actors of all time. And like I said, she did a fine job. The problem is that these characters could not hold a candle to the villains from the first movie. Richmond Ballantyne, played by the great Samuel L. Jackson, and of course Gazelle, played by Sofia Boutella. Those bad guys were just great. Excellent, threatening villains, but they were funny and kind of relatable at the same time. These, not as much. Just not as much. Again, it goes with the theme of the movie. A lot of flash, but very little substance. My favorite member of the Statesmen was Agent Whiskey, played by Pablo Pascal. He was the most interesting one of the bunch. When I first watched this movie, I was taken aback a little bit by when it's revealed that, you know, he was the person who was double-crossing them. He was the somewhat double agent or triple agent, if you want to say that, because he was, you know, sabotaging for his own personal purposes. But he was just such a cool, funny, over-the-top Western stereotype, and Pablo Pascal did such a great job playing the character that it really helped define what the Statesmen were like. Two guys who I felt their talents were completely wasted because they were barely in this movie were Michael Gambon, who was the new Arthur for the Kingsman, and Jeff Bridges, who played Agent Champagne, or Champ, who was the leader of the Statesmen. Two of the most talented actors of all time, very small roles, they were barely in the movie. If you put actors of that caliber in a film, you better give them a lot more to do. Alright, let's talk about the Kingsman, starting with Merlin, played by Mark Strong. I love this character. My wife is a huge fan of the franchise, and this is one of her favorite characters. Her favorite thing that Mark Strong has ever done. So to us, when we were watching the movie and we saw that towards the third act, they officially make Merlin a field agent, and he puts on his Kingsman suit and glasses and he's ready to go out in the field and join Eggsy and Harry. It was really exciting, and then the very next scene they kill him. So that, I thought, again, very much like Michael Gambon and Jeff Bridges, that was such a waste. So much more could have been done with that, but they just kill him off in the very next scene. However, I will say that I loved his death scene. His death scene was so good. He went out like a badass, providing a distraction, an in for Eggsy and Harry to go into Poppyland and kick ass and stop Poppy's scheme for holding the world for ransom. Excellent scene. Mark Strong played it fantastically. I understand that in one of the original cuts of the movie, Merlin was supposed to survive that explosion, but without his legs. Like, the explosion took off his legs, but he survives. And that they played the movie with that scene where after Harry and Eggsy defeat Whiskey, when they defeat Whiskey, they defeat him, they save the day, and then suddenly Merlin crawls into the diner with no legs. And the audience hated it, so they knew to cut it out. So I'm glad they went with that, the cut we know, where Merlin doesn't survive and he sacrifices himself and he goes out like a hero. But like I said, my only real complaint is that I wished they would have done more with him as a field agent. So the question that everybody asks me about the movie is how I felt about the way that they brought Harry Hart back to life. Now, once again, just want to remind everybody that Harry Hart is my absolute favorite character of the franchise. So I was, for the most part, happy, just elated, in a state of euphoria to see him return. I love this character, and I think Colin Firth does a fantastic job playing him. So for the most part, I didn't care about the explanation. I wanted an explanation, but I didn't care what it was. I agree that it's convoluted and it's a bit bullshit and all that. I hear everybody's complaints, but as a fan of the character, I just didn't mind it. And plus, I like how they used it as a plot point, which is an excellent way to diffuse something in your story that is completely convoluted. Just make it a major plot point in the story. Don't just mention something huge and convoluted and never readdress it. It's a major plot point. In fact, it's Eggsy's clever one-liner after they defeat Whiskey. In fact, it's Eggsy's one-liner after they defeat Whiskey. Put some alpha gel on that, dickhead. What I did have a problem with as far as Harry's return was that they established this major arc for the character, having to recover from that gunshot to the head, because apparently the trauma, you know, it gives him amnesia, it ruins his peripheral vision. You know, he throws the mug and he misses the redneck. Whiskey catches the mug. He shoots the knockout dart at the dude and completely misses him. It gives him hallucinations. He sees butterflies. So they established that he has a major problem now and he's not at 100%. And that something major has to happen to him to fix him, to bring him back to 100%. And then by the end of the movie, he's just back to normal. He's a total badass. He's kicking ass left and right, no problem. So I felt like they established this amazing, awesome arc for my favorite character, and they never really concluded it in a truly satisfying way. Now, as far as Taron Egerton, he was magnificent. He's such a great young leading man, and he's going to go far into business, so I have nothing negative or different to say about him than what I've said about him in the past. He's great, he's magnificent at playing this character, and he's going to go far. He's going to go far, and he did an excellent job leading this cast and carrying this movie on his shoulders. If this movie had one major strength, I felt was the action sequences. The action sequences are still top notch. Now, we didn't get a scene equal to or greater than the battle at the church from the original movie, where Harry just takes out everybody at the church single-handedly, which was awesome. But there were still lots and lots of awesome action sequences, one after the other. In fact, the movie opens with a fight scene / car chase between Charlie Hesketh and Eggsy. And that's the first 2 minutes. Boom, you see the title, and that fight scene / car chase begins right out of the gate. And while it, once again, as I said, it goes right into the fantasy really, really fast, what I did like about that is that it instantly establishes the pacing of the movie. This is going to be fast, this is going to be furious, this is going to be high octane, high energy all the way through. There's won't be much substance here, it's just going to be lots and lots of fun. I love the way that the statesmen fight. It's so very specific. I love that. One of my favorite things about the original movies is that the Kingsman has such a very specific way of fighting. And now they create this whole new agency, this whole new group of secret agents, and they also have this very particular, very cool, brawling Western style of fighting. And I thought that was really, really cool. So I loved every single scene where we see Whiskey or Tequila just kick ass and use their very specific fighting technique to dispatch some enemies. So that was pretty cool. That was an interesting, cool new addition to the franchise. But my favorite action scene in the whole movie has to be the one-take fight scene between Eggsy and Harry versus Agent Whiskey at the diner, where they're fighting over the briefcase. Now, yes, I know that it isn't really one take. alright? I know that it was done digitally, but the point is that you get to see the fight scene from start to finish all the way through, and you get to see all the details of the fight scene. Yes, I agree that it would have been way cooler if they would have really done it all in one take. That would have been amazing. But, you know, in order to catch the frantic nature and the quickness by which the Kingsman and the Statesman fight, they had to, you know, manipulate it digitally and hide some actual cuts digitally. But the point is that it looks like it's one ongoing take, so you're seeing this really cool stylized fight scene with no interruptions. Nothing whatsoever. They don't cut away to anything, no inserts, nothing. The whole picture is right in front of you, and you can choose to focus on whatever you want. And the fact that you still they still draw your eye to certain parts of the frame and manipulate you into focusing on the briefcase or on a knife or on the meat grinder, that is very talented. That's amazing, excellent, good shot design. So I tip my hat to them for that, for having the good sense to choreograph that scene the way they did, even if a lot of it was CG, even if a lot of it was done digitally. So here's the big question. Would I want to see a third Kingsman movie? Absolutely. I still feel like this franchise has a lot of potential. However, that's it. All I want to see is 3 of them. I think it deserves to have a trilogy. I think Taron Egerton deserves it. He's an excellent leading man, and I think every good actor should have 1 trilogy under their belt. However, yeah, that's it. I think that's it. Once they have 3, that's it. The franchise is done. And just like this movie, I wouldn't expect the 3rd movie to be better than the first one. I feel that the first Kingsman is one of those movies that's like RoboCop. RoboCop was a movie that was not supposed to work, but all the right ingredients came together, and it's one of the greatest fanboy films of all time. And that's what Kingsman was. It was combining 2 very different genres and 2 very different tones together, and just all the right elements came together while they were, you know, producing the film, and it came out great. So I went into the sequel with the feeling that there's no way they're going to top the first one. The first one is just too good. And that's the reason why I was not disappointed, I was not mad, I'm not pissed, and I just enjoyed it. I just sat down and had a good time, and that's it. I just wanted to have a good time with these characters that I love, and at least one explanation, even if it was a stupid explanation, as to how Harry Hart came back to life. And that's it. But, yes, I agree, 100% agree that this movie does not hold a candle to Kingsman: The Secret Service. At all. Fully agreed on that. But with that said, I still enjoyed it. I am a fanboy, I'm a critic, and I love Kingsman. It's one of my favorite franchises currently, and I still enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I still felt like it was a worthy follow-up. It wasn't a superior follow-up, but a worthy one. Okay? I feel that that is a good compromise. Anyway, so those are my thoughts of Kingsman 2, The Golden Circle. I wish I could have given you a professionally edited, a professionally written video in which I gave you my concise thoughts of this movie, but unfortunately that cannot happen because 20th Century Fox are assholes. Or they were assholes. Disney owns them.